So I thought of learning today a bit of halachot of Yayin Nesech. Part of you who's learning the SCP, so you see it with the SCP. And it's just a time to summarize many practical questions we have about wine. And I thought the topic of today will be what happens when a Jewish person who's not religious, what happens when he touches wine? Is there a problem? Can I have a waiter open for me a bottle of wine? Can I have a waiter pour for me wine? So that's the halachot we'll be learning today. And we'll start really from the beginning, and everything will be in a nutshell. Okay, but maybe just the basic concepts of halacha. So the original halacha we have is Yayin Nesech. Yayin Nesech was very, very common in the times of Chazal, and that is wine that a non-Jewish person has touched, an open bottle of wine, whether it belongs to a Jewish person or it belongs to a non-Jewish person. And part of the way they used to worship idols in the past, they used to put their hands or do something to the wine, move the wine, shake the wine, in the purpose of having it being into the merit of some idols and some avodah zarah that they had. So, and that was quite common in the times of the Gemara and the times before the Gemara. So a lot of wine of non-Jewish people is asur mishum Yayin Nesech, what we call Yayin Nesech, wine that was brought or made to avodah zarah, for worshipping idols. Wine like that is forbidden also for drinking, and also from benefiting from it, like any other thing that belongs to idols, we had idols with it, so we can't even benefit from such wine. That's the basic halacha of Yayin Nesech. Our sages say that any wine had a decree, any wine that belongs to a non-Jewish person, or perhaps any wine he touches, will be forbidden, and that's called stam yeinam. Stam yeinam. And the reason for stam yeinam, we have two reasons. One, perhaps maybe he used it for avodah zarah. Okay, that's one reason. And another reason is we know that wine connects people. You drink wine and alcohol, and wine is also an important alcohol. It's not just beer, it's expensive. You can drink quite a bit from it. Wine has a lot of importance for Kedusha. We say Kiddush in wine, and many other mitzvot. A Brit Milah we do in wine, so we bring it to the Mizbeach. So wine is an important drink, and also a very common drink. And therefore, Chazal were concerned that if Jews start drinking wine with non-Jews, so slowly they'll become close to each other. But we become close, more of not intimate, but a personal, very, very close personal relation, and then they'll start marrying with each other. And we can see today, unfortunately, not just today, but through all out of history, how this problem of marrying into non-Jewish families is quite a big problem of the Jewish nation that we face, and try to think out how we protect and prevent from that happening. So that's a very important decree of Chazal about stam yeinam. Okay, wine like that is stam yeinam. Okay, that's stam yeinam. Now, many rabbis said, not all rabbis, but many rabbis said that if that non-Jewish person, we know he doesn't worship idols. For example, he belongs to the Muslims, and according to many poskim, like the Rambam, the Muslims aren't considered a nation who worship idols. So if that non-Jewish person belongs to a nation that does not worship idols, so you can benefit from the wine, although you cannot drink the wine. Okay, so you can benefit, you cannot drink. Some poskim even expanded, like the Raman. He says, even if that non-Jewish person belongs to a nation who do worship idols, but you know him, he doesn't worship idols. So the group he belongs to does not worship idols, so you can benefit from the wine. Now, today, perhaps it's not so important for us. Benefit from the wine, not benefit from the wine. It is more important, let's say, for someone who has a supermarket and he sells things. He has a shop on Amazon, and he sells things. Can he sell very high quality wine that belongs to a non-Jewish person? If he sells it to a non-Jewish person, in the past, in Europe and other places, Jews they worked with lending money to each other and getting the interest, lending money to non-Jewish people. And many times the non-Jewish people didn't have money to pay back, so they used to pay with products. And some of the products they paid with was wine. So the question is, can a non-Jew or can a Jewish benefit from the wine he gets from that non-Jewish person? So that's the question they had in the past. We won't go so much into it now, since I don't think it's relevant so much for us here right now. None of us here has a shop on Amazon that sells wine. Now we come to the complicated question. What about Jews? What about Jews? So I think first you'll say, well, what's the problem with Jews? Okay, what's the problem with Jews? There's no problem with marrying into with other Jews, even if they aren't religious, so they aren't Shomer Shabbat. They still aren't Shomer Shabbat. Maybe the children will be Shomer Shabbat. I'm sure many of us came from families or know families who the parents, grandparents were not Shomer Shabbat, and then the grandchildren or children or the great grandchildren, somewhere they became Shomer Shabbat. So what's the problem? What's the problem? We have a concept in halacha, and the question is just how much to expand this concept. And it's debating poskim. And the concept is mechalel Shabbat befarhesia. Someone who doesn't keep Shabbat in public, okay, in public, so hareu kehumar. He's like someone who doesn't believe in all the Torah, as if someone who is worshipping idols. The reason for that is, we can say two reasons for that. First, on Shabbat, when we keep Shabbat, so we testify and that Hashem created the world in 6 days and rested on Shabbat. We testify in the beginning of the Torah, Bereshit bara Elokim. We testify on Hashem keeping an eye of having some connection to the world, although the world is a world of nature and physicality, and Hashem is beyond that. Still, there is some kind of connection. We don't know exactly how it happens, but there is a connection, and we can have a day that is me'ein olam haba. One day in the week, we say this day is somehow connects to the divine presence in this physical world. And Shabbat also teaches us about Yetziat Mitzrayim. And Shabbat teaches us about when we went out of Egypt and they had the manna. So it came down 6 days a week. It did not come down on Shabbat. So Shabbat really shows us something which Hashem's appearance in the world, here in the world. So when someone keeps Shabbat, he's testifying and saying to the whole world, look, I believe that Hashem leads this world. I believe that Hashem created the world, and I believe that Hashem did this world and leads the world. Someone who does not keep Shabbat, so if it's privately and out of, so he doesn't have any influence on others. But when he says to everyone, like, look at me, I'm driving on Shabbat, so it's like as if testifying the opposite, as if it's testifying there's no God. So a person like that is as if he doesn't keep the whole Torah. So that's one reason for a person not keeping Shabbat in public, that you can look at him, view him as a mumar, someone who says there's no Torah, I don't keep the Torah at all. Another reason, and that reason brings to here the question in poskim, in the past, Shabbat was the basic mitzvah to keep. If you keep Shabbat, perhaps maybe people didn't keep Yom Tov so much, and perhaps people didn't go every holiday, they didn't go to Jerusalem. And maybe people didn't so much take the 4 minim, but Shabbat, everyone stopped working on Shabbat. So in the past, Shabbat was the basic mitzvah for every Jewish person, at least in public. Private homes, maybe many people didn't keep Shabbat. But at least in public, that everyone said, I am part of the Jewish nation, I am part of the community. Today, many people, and that's quite interesting, you'll see people coming to the kotel for slichot, saying slichot, staying there for shachrit, putting on tefillin every day. They'll make sure they put on tefillin, and there won't be one day that they miss. Every day they'll be putting on tefillin, but they won't keep Shabbat. Okay, they won't keep Shabbat. You see families that the woman every month goes to the mikvah and keeps tarat mishpacha, and kashrut chas v'chalila, they will not eat something which isn't kosher. Maybe they want to go to the most mehadrin place, but they'll make sure they eat kosher. But Shabbat, they'll be driving on Shabbat. They'll go to the beach on Shabbat. and look for what they consider a more or less kosher restaurant. Everything will be just meat or just dairy. And maybe you won't eat there, but they'll say, okay, it's more or less kosher. They'll make sure they don't eat pork. So it's quite interesting. Today, in our days, a person can not keep Shabbat, but still keep other mitzvot. And that brings a debate between the poskim. How do we view someone who doesn't keep Shabbat? Okay, how do we view someone who doesn't keep Shabbat? So some poskim will say, look, as soon as there's a decree of Chazal, that's the decree of Chazal, and that's it. We don't make any differences, doesn't matter. As soon as Chazal said that someone who doesn't keep Shabbat, we view him as a mumar, someone who doesn't keep the whole Torah, someone who worships idols. So that's what Chazal said, and there's a reason for it, because Shabbat is a very important day in the Jewish mitzvot. We testify, as we mentioned, about Hashem in the world. Some poskim will say, well, that today it's not so true, because today Mechalel Shabbat, he'll still be keeping other mitzvot. He'll be putting on tefillin. He'll buy the best tefillin he can. He'll make sure he has lulav and etrog. He'll be keeping many other mitzvot. So some say that today, nowadays, someone who doesn't keep Shabbat, don't view him so much as in the past. Okay, so that's a debate we have between the poskim. Some will go to somewhere in between, and they'll say, look, if someone doesn't keep Shabbat, so he's a mumar. Okay, someone in the public doesn't keep Shabbat, he's a mumar. He's like someone who worships idols. But if he'll be embarrassed to keep Shabbat, not to keep Shabbat, to work on Shabbat in front, let's say, of the chief rabbi. So if he has a cigarette, and as soon as he hears the chief rabbi comes, so he throw away the cigarette and make sure, look, I'm fine. Next to the chief rabbi, how can I smoke on Shabbat next to the chief rabbi? That chas v'chayla I won't do. So someone like that who is embarrassed to work, to smoke on Shabbat, to drive on Shabbat next to the chief rabbi, next to the rabbi of the town or something, he consider him still as someone who we can trust him for different things. He's considered Jewish for many things, including touching wine. So basically, we have here three opinions. The most lenient opinion, today will say, someone who keeps Shabbat, someone who doesn't keep Shabbat, okay, in public. We still consider him as a kosher Jew, and even if he touches the wine, so it is fine. That's the most lenient opinion. The most stringent opinion will say, someone who doesn't keep Shabbat in public. Public means in front of 10 people. Someone who doesn't keep Shabbat in public. So for many things, not for everything, but for many things, he is considered as a non-Jew. Also for touching wine. So if he touches the wine, so that is a problem. And then we have a few opinions in the middle. I mentioned one of the opinions in the middle, and that is that someone who doesn't keep Shabbat, but he's embarrassed to do melacha on Shabbat in front of an important person, so we consider him as if he keeps Shabbat, and there's no problem about him touching wine. Okay, so that's in general the three different opinions.
Right. But wasn't this all about idol worship? And we seem to have gone far from idol worship.
So yeah,
keep a Shabbos in public is not an idol worship.
Exactly. So that's a mention, and that's actually maybe perhaps I should have expanded a bit more. It comes from the Rashba in the name of the Bahag. Bahag was one of the Geonim, and it has hints for it also in the Gemara. And so, let's start even beforehand. A Jewish person who worships idols. Okay, a Jewish person who worships idols. So obviously, if he touches the wine, we have a problem. Okay, and the wine, you cannot drink the wine. Okay, that's a Jewish person who worships the idols. We have hints in the Gemara, and the Rashba, one of the Rishonim, brings that in the name of the Bahag, Baal Halachot Gdolot, that also a Jewish person that does not keep Shabbat, we view him as a mumar. Okay, view him as a mumar. So it's true that he doesn't worship idols, but if part of a faith and emunah in Hashem is that Hashem is here in this world, and every week on Shabbat we testify and say Hashem is here in this world. So someone who doesn't keep Shabbat, he's like saying the opposite. I do not believe that Hashem is here in the world. So it's true that he doesn't bow down to an idol, But by the actions of saying, I am saying Hashem is not here in the world, look at me, I'm doing things on Shabbat. Hashem said, rest on Shabbat, don't drive, don't smoke, and I am smoking on Shabbat. So that's this showing the opposite. Okay, I believe Chas v'chayila that Hashem doesn't care, doesn't look, doesn't have. So it has some kind of connection to idols. And some poskim say
I don't know.
as soon as Chazal,
No one bows down. No one has anything to do with idol worship these days.
yeah, but here comes the next step. We have many times in Chazal, the idea of lo plug. Okay, lo plug means that Chazal, when you have laws, you can't always do here yes, here no, here. It's lo plug, which means one rule and that's it. Otherwise, that's many times in Chazal when they have the decrees of Chazal, we have the idea of lo plug. That's the halacha and that's it. We don't now check this case, this case, this case. So the base also the idea of lo plug. As soon as
I don't
Chazal,
need to check anybody. No one worships idols nowadays.
right, but no one worships idols today, but even if a non-Jewish person touches wine, so you cannot drink the wine. Hey, so if a Muslim, for example, touches wine today, you can benefit from the wine, as I said in the beginning, but you cannot drink the wine. That's for every non-Jewish person. Doesn't matter if he worships idols or doesn't worship idols. And according to the Rashman, the Bahag, a Jewish person who doesn't keep Shabbat in public, so it's just like any other non-Jewish person who does not worship idols. It's true. A Muslim doesn't worship idols. A Muslim doesn't now bow down to whatever it is. Doesn't believe in the cross. Okay, but he believes in the same God, in Allah. Okay, which we can find connections to Judaism. He doesn't worship idols, but still, we wanted to separate between Jewish people and non-Jewish people. There's even an opinion, Rav Sternbuch, okay, I think it's from Bnei Brak, I'm not sure, that says that a non-Jewish person in some aspects is a bit more lenient than a Jewish person. Or if you want to say the opposite, a Jewish person who does not keep Shabbat should be more stringent with the wine he touches than a Jewish person. You can argue, as I said, I won't go so much into it. I don't understand exactly the logic behind it, but she explains part of the idea of not drinking wine is not to become close to the non-Jewish people, not just so we don't marry with them, but also not to learn with them, not to have an influence. And in the last 200 years, the Ashkenazi world, from Europe until now, is very much in a mode of protecting the Jewish world or the Haredi world or the religious world from influences, and a lot of the influence comes from religious people, from non-religious people, Jewish people who are not religious. So Rav Sternbuch says today we need to be even more careful because if we now start drinking wine, so we will be learning a bit about about sniut and perhaps music, and I mean okay, so we'll daven not with a great kavanah. So any influence is dangerous. So he says we don't now separate completely. We just take the decrees of Chazal. So Chazal spoke about wine. We will expand this decree of wine for also Jewish people, although they do not worship idols, but just so we don't learn from their ways. So as I said, there's many opinions here. We want to get to Lema'aseh. What do we do Lema'aseh? Okay, some will say if a non-Jewish person touches wine, and also the same if a Jewish person touches wine, the whole bottle is a problem. Okay,
What do you mean touch the wine?
Touch an open bottle of wine.
An open bottle.
An open bottle, which, and here we should say, which is not mevushal, okay, not cooked wine. Okay, so according to that opinion, if you go to a wedding, a restaurant, you can't even ask the waiter to open for you the bottle of wine. Okay, you can't ask the waiter to open for you the bottle of wine. Why? Because as soon as he touches the bottle, open bottle, all of the bottle, you can't drink it. You can sell it, you can benefit from it, you can sell it to a non-Jewish person, but you can't drink it. Okay, so that's more the stringent opinion. Rav Ovadia holds, and many poskim hold like Rav Ovadia, and they say that if a Jewish person, he pours wine, so the wine that he pours, that's a problem. Okay, and you shouldn't drink the wine that he pours. But the wine that stays in the bottle, that you can drink. Okay, that you can drink. Okay, so in according to Rav Ovadia, if a waiter opens the bottle of wine, so it will be fine. It's not just Rav Ovadia; it's many other poskim too.
A Jew you're
But
talking
what?
A Jew you're talking about.
I didn't
A
hear.
Jew.
Sorry.
You were talking about a Jew, any Jew.
A Jew, a Jew, and yeah. So if the Jewish waiter who opens the wine and then gives you the bottle, so the bottle itself will be fine, and there are poskim, okay, there are poskim that Shach and the Chazon Ish, that even the wine that he poured, okay, even that, the wine that he poured will be fine, it will be kosher. So we have also here, we have three opinions. The most stringent opinion is as soon as it touches an open bottle of wine, which is not mevushal, all of the bottle is a problem. The most lenient opinion will say, even if he pours the wine, he doesn't touch the wine itself, he just pours the wine, right? He holds the bottle, holds the glass, he doesn't touch the wine itself, so everything is fine. That's the most lenient opinion. And we have a middle opinion, and that's most of the poskim follow this opinion, and that's, I think, because most of the poskim follow, so that will be halacha lema'aseh, and with that we will conclude that the wine inside the bottle is fine, and the wine that he pours, so it is a problem. Okay, so if you come to a wedding and you see the wine there is not mevushal, you can or open the bottle by yourself or ask the waiter to open the bottle by yourself. In any case, you should pour the wine for yourself. And then, according to Rav Ovadia and many other poskim, so the wine in the bottle is fine, and that is fine. We'll just end here. We conclude that, of course, it's a decree of Chazal, if according to some opinions, to view Jewish people who are Mechalel Shabbat for some aspects like non-Jewish people, for some aspects. So Jews obviously make it obvious that it's only for some aspects, and for many other aspects, they're Jews, kosher Jews, and we should be mekar of them, we should be together with them. For some aspects, we view them, according to some poskim, as a mumar, but not for all aspects, and we should remember that. Even when we tell the waiter, okay, I'll pour the wine, but you can still love the waiter, you can still leave a tip for the waiter, and treat him as one of our brothers who unfortunately still isn't keeping Torah or mitzvot.
What's this cooked wine? What's
What's the what?
What's this business about cooked wine versus non-cooked wine?
Cooked wine. So I didn't go into it, but I'm not sure what if people here
Mevushal.
mevushal, yayin mevushal. They're all, I'll say it in one sentence. Yayin Nesech, the original halacha. Yayin Nesech. As I said, just in a nutshell, Yayin Nesech, which that wine is wine that could be brought to Avodah Zarah as part of worshipping idols, could be done only with wine which isn't cooked. Okay, so because that tastes better. Good wines are not cooked. Okay, good wines are not cooked. Usually, if you have a cooked wine, it's usually a lower level wine. So all the story of Yayin Nesech is with not cooked wines, and also therefore the other decrees we have usually refer to not cooked wine.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Wendy.
So, Kol Tov, have a great evening.
Bye-bye.